Its ceiling rose like the inside of a mountain, carved from crystal and dark metal that glowed with slow-moving light. Tall alien nobles stood in layered ranks, their long robes flowing, their eyes sharp and judgmental. Armed guards lined the walls, weapons humming softly, each one capable of ending a life in seconds. At the very center of the hall stood one human. His name was Ethan Cross. He wore a simple dark uniform with no decorations. No weapons were visible. His hands were relaxed at his sides, his posture straight but not proud. Compared to the tall aliens around him, he looked fragile. Smaller. Easier to break. That was exactly what they saw. The session was meant to be a formality. The Virelian Empire had summoned a human envoy to discuss trade routes near the outer systems. To the Empire, humans were a minor species, useful workers, clever engineers, but nothing more. Ethan listened as the translators finished repeating the latest accusation. The Virelians believed humans had moved ships through restricted space. Ethan already knew the claim was false. He also knew facts alone would not change minds in this hall. At the highest platform sat Princess Saralith, daughter of the Emperor. She was young by Virelian standards. Her scales polished to a brilliant silver blue. Her eyes bright with confidence. This was her first time presiding over a public court, and she intended to make an impression. She leaned forward, resting her clawed hand on the arm of her throne. "So," she said, her voice clear and cold, "this is the human they sent." A ripple of quiet amusement spread through the nobles. Ethan met her gaze without flinching. The princess's lips curved into a thin smile. "You stand accused of trespassing and deception," she continued. "Two crimes that usually end with execution." The word echoed through the hall. Ethan did not react. His breathing stayed slow. Inside his mind, however, information flowed constantly. Energy readings, security positions, emotional stress indicators from the crowd. He noticed how the guards shifted their stance, how several nobles watched the princess more closely than him. She raised one finger. "But I am feeling generous today," Saralith said. "So I will be honest with you, human." She stood, her tall form casting a long shadow down toward him. "If I wished it," she said calmly, "you would be dead in a minute." Laughter filled the hall. Not loud, but sharp. Confident. Ethan finally spoke. "Understood," he said simply. That answer surprised a few of them. No begging, no anger, just acceptance. Saralith tilted her head. "Is that all?" she asked. "No fear?" Fear, Ethan thought, was a luxury for people who did not understand what was really happening. "My people respect your authority," he said. "We came to speak, not to threaten." The princess laughed again, louder this time. "Your people?" she said. "Humanity barely survived its own wars. You exist because stronger empires allowed it." Ethan said nothing. Saralith's smile sharpened. "Do you know why I mentioned a minute?" she asked. Ethan did not answer. "Because that is how long it would take for my guards to erase you," she said. 60 seconds. No one would remember your name. Her gaze locked onto his. "Tell me, human," she said softly. "What do you think you can do in 1 minute?" For the first time, something changed. Not on Ethan's face, but inside him. A silent signal pulsed through the neural implant at the base of his skull. It was not loud, not urgent, just one word. Active. Ethan felt the shift like a deep vibration under his thoughts. Far beyond the grand hall, hidden in places no Virelian sensor had ever fully mapped, systems began to wake. Ancient relays that had slept for centuries adjusted their alignment. Quantum markers confirmed identity. Protocols written during humanity's darkest era moved from observation to readiness. None of this showed on the palace displays. Yet, Ethan slowly lifted his head. "I think," he said, "that a minute is a very long time." The laughter faded. Saralith narrowed her eyes. "Careful," she warned. "Confidence does not suit your species." Ethan inclined his head slightly. "It kept us alive." A noble near the throne leaned toward the princess and whispered something. Saralith waved him away, her attention fully on the human now. "You speak as if survival is special," she said. Every species survives, until it doesn't. Ethan looked around the hall. At the empire that believed itself eternal. Humans learned, he said, that nothing lasts unless it is protected. The princess straightened. Enough, she said. This hearing is over. She raised her hand. At that exact moment, the lights flickered. Just once. So subtle that most of the nobles barely noticed. But Ethan noticed. And so did the palace's central AI, which immediately began running diagnostics. A guard frowned at his weapon as its hum shifted in pitch. Another light flickered, then steadied. Sarilith hesitated, her hand still raised. "What was that?" she asked. "Minor fluctuation," an advisor said quickly. "The system is stable." Ethan's implant pulsed again. T-minus 45 seconds. He remained perfectly still. The princess lowered her hand slowly. Something about the moment felt wrong. The hall, so loud before, had grown quiet. The nobles watched. Uncertain now, Sarilith scoffed to hide her unease. "Do not mistake coincidence for power," she said to Ethan. "You are still alone." Ethan met her eyes. "No," he said. "I'm just the one standing here." Another flicker, stronger this time. Several guards checked their displays. One whispered, "My weapon is not responding." A low murmur spread through the hall. Sarilith's confidence cracked, just a little. "Status report," she snapped. Before anyone could answer, a new sound filled the hall. A deep, distant tone. Not an alarm, more like a signal. The palace AI spoke, its voice calm but confused. "Attention," it said. "External system synchronization detected." The nobles erupted into questions. Sarilith stepped forward. "Explain," she ordered. The AI paused, as if searching for words it had never needed before. "Source identified," it said slowly. "Designation: Human Origin Infrastructure." Silence fell like a blade. Sarilith turned sharply toward Ethan. "What did you do?" Ethan did not smile. He did not threaten. He simply spoke the truth. "Nothing," he said. "I arrived." The timer in his mind reached 10 seconds. Outside the palace, far beyond the city, dormant structures buried under oceans, moons, and empty space aligned their focus not on the empire, but on protection, on containment, on making sure the next minute did not become a mistake no one could undo. Ethan looked up at the princess, who now stared at him with something dangerously close to fear. "You said I'd be dead in a minute," he said quietly. The hall lights steadied. The weapons remained offline. "And," he added, "we still have time to talk." The minute was almost over, and the galaxy had just taken its first breath before a truth it had long ignored. The silence inside the grand hall did not break when the minute ended. It stretched. Nobles shifted where they stood, their confidence gone, replaced by tight, uncertain expressions. Guards pulled uselessly at their weapon controls, only to find them frozen. The deep signal tone faded, leaving behind a heavy stillness that pressed against every mind in the room. Princess Sarilith remained standing, her hand half lowered, her authority suddenly fragile. The palace AI spoke again. "Synchronization complete," it said. "Defensive protocols stable." Sarilith clenched her jaw. "Defensive protocols?" she repeated. "Whose?" The AI paused. That pause frightened her more than an immediate answer would have. "Classification override detected," it said. "Human emergency framework." "Acknowledged." Murmurs exploded across the hall. "Emergency framework? Human technology? That is impossible." Sarilith's eyes locked onto Ethan Cross. "You lied," she said. "You said you did nothing." Ethan's voice remained calm. "I still haven't." She stepped down from the throne, descending the steps until she stood only a short distance from him. For the first time, she was close enough to truly see him not as a symbol, not as a weak envoy, but as a living being. "You walk into my court," she said quietly, "and my empire's systems answer you." "They don't answer me," Ethan replied. "They recognize me." That was worse. Sarilith straightened, refusing to show fear. "Explain. Now." Ethan took a slow breath. Around them, nobles listened in complete silence. The Empire demanded answers. And for the first time, humanity would not hide. Long before the Varelian Empire reached the stars, Ethan said, humans almost destroyed themselves. Several nobles scoffed. But not as confidently as before. Our wars were not small, Ethan continued. They were total. Planet-wide. Species-wide. We learned very early that power without restraint ends everything. He lifted his eyes to the ceiling, as if seeing through it. So we planned, he said. For threats we might cause, and threats we might face. Saralith folded her arms. You are saying this chaos is planning? Ethan nodded once. A safety net, the Palace AI interrupted. External network expansion ongoing, it said. No hostile intent detected. Saralith snapped. Stop it. I cannot, the AI replied. Override authority not recognized. A ripple of panic spread. Saralith felt the ground shift beneath her certainty. She had been raised to believe the Empire was absolute. That nothing outranked the crown. Yet something had. She turned back to Ethan. You built weapons in our space. No, Ethan said. We built shelters. That word echoed strangely in the hall. A shelter does not disable an empire, she said. Ethan looked directly at her. It does when the Empire becomes the threat. The nobles erupted in anger. How dare you? This is treason. Saralith raised her hand sharply. Enough. They fell silent. She studied Ethan carefully now. Not as an enemy, but as a problem she had never been trained to solve. You expect me to believe, she said slowly, that humans hid systems across the galaxy without anyone noticing? Ethan's mouth twitched slightly. Not a smile. Something sadder. You noticed, he said. You just didn't think they mattered. Images began to form above the center of the hall as the AI projected data without being asked. Star maps. Trade routes. Construction records. Human-built stations. Repair docks. Relays. All labeled as minor, outdated, or irrelevant. The realization struck the nobles one by one. We let them build everywhere, someone whispered. Ethan nodded. You wanted cheap labor, reliable engineers, people who fixed what broke and didn't ask for power. So you hid behind humility, Saralith said. We hid behind patience, Ethan corrected. Her hands curled into fists. Why now? Ethan met her gaze. Because you threatened a minute. The room went cold. That phrase, he continued, was written into our protocols centuries ago. Saralith's eyes widened slightly. A minute? When a human is given a countdown by a superior force, Ethan said. Our systems assume extinction risk. He gestured lightly. The response is not attack. It's prevention. The palace shook faintly, as if something vast had shifted far away. A noble shouted, They're going to wipe us out. No, Ethan said firmly. If we wanted that, this hall would already be empty. That silenced them faster than any threat. Saralith exhaled slowly. Her pride warred with reason, but reason was finally winning. What happens now? She asked. Ethan considered the question. This was the moment humanity had prepared for but hoped would never come. That depends, he said, on what kind of empire you want to be tomorrow. The AI spoke again, its voice neutral but heavy with meaning. Advisory, it said. Multiple Varelian border fleets are reporting system interference. No damage. Full containment. Saralith's head snapped up. You reached our fleets? Ethan nodded. So they don't panic. Or fire. She laughed once, sharp and disbelieving. You're protecting us. From ourselves. Yes, he said. She looked around at her people, the nobles who had laughed minutes ago, now silent and afraid. All this, she said softly. Because I insulted you. Ethan shook his head. No. Because you underestimated us. For the first time, Saralith lowered her gaze, not in surrender. In thought. What do humans want? She asked quietly. The question echoed through the hall. Empires had fallen over less. Ethan answered without hesitation. To be left alone, he said. Unless we're needed. Saralith lifted her eyes again, searching his face for lies. She found none. And if we refuse? She asked. The Palace AI responded before Ethan could. Escalation protocols exist, it said. They are not recommended. Ethan added softly. We don't like using them. Seralith straightened, decision settling like armor around her. Then we will talk, she said. Truly talk. The nobles gasped. She turned to Ethan. But understand this. Human. My empire does not kneel. Ethan inclined his head slightly. Neither does mine. The systems remained active. The empire remained standing. And somewhere beyond the stars, humanity watched, not with hunger, not with fear, but with quiet readiness. The second minute ended, and the universe felt smaller and far more careful than it had before. The journey to the edge of the Varelian Empire took 3 days, not because the distance was great, but because caution now ruled every decision. Ethan Cross stood alone in the observation chamber of the diplomatic cruiser, watching stars stretch into long lines as the ship moved through controlled slipspace. The Varelians had insisted on escorting him. Humanity had agreed. Trust, after all, had to start somewhere. Behind him, Princess Seralith entered the chamber. She no longer wore her ceremonial armor. Instead, she wore a simple travel uniform, her scales duller without the court lights. For the first time since their meeting, she looked less like a ruler and more like someone carrying the weight of responsibility. You planned all of this, she said quietly. Ethan did not turn. We planned for a possibility, not for you. She stopped beside him, staring at the stars. My advisors say your systems are everywhere, she said. Hidden in our trade lanes, beneath our colonies, even inside our oldest infrastructure. Yes, Ethan replied. And you never used them? No, he said again. Seralith folded her arms. Why? 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 Ethan finally faced her. Because power used too early becomes fear. Fear becomes war. She said nothing. The ship slowed, stars snapping back into points of light. Outside the viewport, a dead system floated in silence. No planets, no sun. Just debris and darkness. Seralith frowned. Why are we here? Ethan raised his hand. The viewport adjusted, revealing something massive hidden among the wreckage. A station, not sleek or beautiful. It was layered, scarred, and ancient. Sections had been repaired countless times. Human writing covered its hull. Not decoration, but reminders. Seralith read the translation aloud. Hold the line. If you're here, you survived. Her throat tightened. What is this? This, Ethan said softly, is Outpost Echo. The cruiser docked. As they stepped inside, Seralith felt the difference immediately. The air was warm, not sterile. Human voices echoed through the corridors. Calm, focused, purposeful. No soldiers rushed to greet them. No weapons were raised. Instead, a woman with tired eyes and a steady smile approached. Envoy Cross, she said. We were wondering when the galaxy would finally trip the wire. Seralith stiffened. Trip the wire? Ethan nodded. Princess Seralith, this is Commander Hale. She watches over the failsafe network in this sector. Hale inclined her head respectfully. Your Highness. Seralith stared at her. You live here? For now, Hale replied. We move when needed. They walked through the station. Seralith saw families, children studying star maps, engineers repairing old machines with care instead of pride. This isn't a fortress, Seralith said. No, Hale agreed. It's a lifeboat. They entered a chamber where a holographic display lit up the room. It showed Earth scarred, but alive. Hale's voice grew serious. This is what our home looked like after the last war. Seralith watched cities burn, oceans darken, billions lost. Ethan spoke quietly. We almost ended ourselves. No enemy, no invasion, just fear and power. The image shifted. Survivors building, sharing, leaving. We swore, Hale said, never again. If another empire rose and fell, we would not be caught in the collapse. Seralith swallowed. So you prepared to run. To endure, Ethan corrected. Another image appeared. Alien worlds. Virelian worlds. Your empire grew fast, Hale said. Fast growth creates blind spots. We filled them. Seralith's voice shook. You used us. Ethan met her eyes. You used us first. The words were not cruel, just true. Silence filled the room. Seralith closed her eyes. Every insult, every assumption, every laugh in the grand hall returned to her. You could destroy us, she said. Yes, Hale replied. Why don't you? Ethan answered. Because survival taught us something else. The image changed again, humans standing between alien worlds and disaster, stabilizing stars, repairing failing ecosystems. Leaving quietly. We don't need to rule, Ethan said. We need to prevent endings. Seralith looked at the humans around her. They did not look like conquerors. They looked tired, determined, hopeful. A warning suddenly echoed through the station. Alert, the AI announced. Virelian internal fleet movement detected, unscheduled. Seralith's head snapped up. That's not possible. Hale frowned. Your empire is fracturing. Ethan turned to Seralith. Someone wants control. A Virelian officer appeared on the holo display. Princess, he said urgently. High Council factions are mobilizing. They believe humanity is holding you hostage. Seralith felt her chest tighten. They're wrong. They don't care, the officer replied. They're moving to secure Outpost Echo. Silence followed. Hale looked at Ethan. If they attack, we won't, Ethan said. Seralith stared at him. They'll destroy this place. Ethan shook his head. No. But they'll reveal themselves. He turned to her. This is the moment. Seralith understood. If she stayed silent, her empire would fall into fear and violence. She stepped forward, shoulders straight. Open a channel, she said. The station AI complied. Her image broadcast across the Virelian Empire. I am not a prisoner, Seralith said clearly. I came here by choice. The fleets hesitated. I have seen the truth of humanity, she continued. They are not our enemies. They are our warning. Murmurs spread across the stars. If you fire, she said, you will prove them right. The channel closed. Time passed. Long, heavy. Then the AI spoke. Fleet movement halted. Seralith exhaled. She turned to Ethan. Her voice quiet but steady. I was wrong, she said. Ethan inclined his head. Most first encounters are. She looked at Outpost Echo once more. What happens now? She asked. Ethan looked at the stars. Now, he said, you decide whether your empire survives the truth. Outside, the galaxy waited, watching two species stand at the edge of history, not as enemies, but as equals, facing what came next. The return to the Virelian capital felt different, not quieter, not safer, heavier. Princess Seralith stood at the front of the diplomatic cruiser beside Ethan Cross, watching the familiar stars draw closer. The empire she had known all her life was still there, but it was no longer simple. Truth had a way of changing gravity. Behind them, Outpost Echo faded into the dark, its lights dimming as human systems returned to observation mode. Not retreat. Not victory. Readiness. Once we land, Seralith said softly. Everything changes. Ethan nodded. Change already happened. This is just the moment people notice. The cruiser exited slipspace above the capital world. The planet glowed beneath them, city lights forming vast patterns across its surface. Normally, the sight filled Seralith with pride. Now it filled her with responsibility. They descended through the atmosphere. Defense platforms tracked them but did not lock on. Orders had gone out. Conflicting ones. Fear still moved through the empire, but it no longer ran unchecked. The grand hall awaited them. As the doors opened, Seralith felt the weight of thousands of eyes. Nobles, military leaders, advisors, citizens watching through broadcast feeds across the empire. Ethan walked beside her, calm as ever. Whispers spread like wind through tall grass. The human returned. She brought him back. Is this surrender? Sarilith ascended the steps alone this time. She did not sit on the throne. She stood before it. My people, she began, her voice carrying without effort. You were told humanity was weak. Murmurs rippled. I believed that lie, she continued. I spoke it. I insulted them. Her gaze moved across the hall, steady and unflinching. I was wrong. The hall fell silent. A high-ranking noble stepped forward. Your Highness, he said sharply. This human has infiltrated our systems. He has humiliated us. He has saved us, Sarilith interrupted. Gasps echoed. She raised her hand. Do you think our empire would still stand if humans wanted us gone? No one answered. Ethan remained still, eyes forward, not claiming credit. Our power blinded us, Sarilith said. Humanity saw what we refused to growth. Without restraint, ends in collapse. A military commander spoke up. Are we to bow to them? Sarilith turned to Ethan, then back to the hall. No, she said firmly. We are to stand beside them. Anger flared. Fear. Pride. Then the palace AI spoke. Attention, it said. External anomaly detected. Unidentified fleet entering system. The hall erupted. Sarilith's head snapped up. Identify. Identify. The AI paused. Designation unknown. Fleet composition. Non-Varelian. Non-human. Ethan's posture changed just slightly. How many? He asked. Enough, the AI replied. The screens filled with images of dark, angular ships tearing through the edge of the system. No signals. No diplomacy. An older empire. One that did not wait. They followed the activation, Ethan said quietly. They hunt civilizations at moments like this. Panic spread instantly. They're coming because of you. We should hand the human over. Sarilith stepped forward, voice sharp as steel. Silence. The hall froze. She looked at Ethan. Is this why you prepared? Yes, he said. This is why we exist. The AI spoke again. Enemy fleet accelerating. Estimated arrival. 9 minutes. 9 minutes. Once, Sarilith had threatened a human with one. She met Ethan's eyes. What do we do? Ethan did not answer immediately. Instead, he spoke aloud. Clearly. For all to hear. Humanity will not command your fleets, he said. We will not take your throne. He turned slowly, addressing the hall. But we will stand. The lights dimmed not from failure, but from focus. Across the system, dormant human structures awakened, not hidden this time. Visible. Calm. Precise. Energy fields aligned, not as weapons first, but as shields. The enemy fleet fired. Space bent. The attack dispersed harmlessly against layered defenses that flowed like water around the planet. Shock rippled through the hall. They stopped it, someone whispered. Without firing back, Sarilith felt awe tighten her chest. Ethan spoke again. Your fleets will engage under your command. Humans will reinforce, not replace. The Varelian admirals hesitated, then nodded. Orders flew. Ships launched. The battle that followed was not glorious. It was controlled. Human systems predicted enemy movement seconds before it happened. Varelian ships struck precisely, never wasting fire. When enemy vessels tried to break through, human containment fields redirected them away from civilian zones. Not domination. Protection. Minutes stretched into hours. Finally, the enemy fleet withdrew, not destroyed, but broken and unwilling to continue. Silence returned to the system. Cheers did not erupt. Instead, something deeper settled. Understanding. Sarilith turned to Ethan. My insult, she said quietly, almost doomed us. Ethan shook his head. It woke us. She stepped forward, then did something no Varelian ruler had done in recorded history. She bowed. Not deeply, not submissively. As an equal, on behalf of my people, she said, thank you. Ethan inclined his head in return. On behalf of mine, he replied. Welcome to the truth. Days later, the galaxy spoke of the event, not as a human conquest, not as a fallen empire, but as the moment an arrogant civilization survived by listening. Human systems slowly faded back into shadow, not gone, just watching. Princess Seralith stood once more in the grand hall, now changed forever. Beside her stood a human envoy, not alone, but no longer underestimated. She addressed the Empire one final time. "Let this be remembered," she said, "not as the day humanity showed its strength," she looked at Ethan, "but as the day we learned why humans never need to." And across the stars, civilizations adjusted their plans because the universe had learned a quiet, dangerous truth. Humanity did not rise to rule. Humanity rose to make sure there was still a future left to share.